Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to another Bumba review. I just finished Spiderman Miles Morales on stream a few weeks ago. If you want, you can check that out. I got links down below. I was playing it on my PS5, which I was very lucky to be able to get my hands on. This game has been out for a while now, and people have had time to get their hands on it. So today I'm going to be answering the question, is it worth your time and money to go pick this game up and play it right now? It's complicated. So for starters, this game is obviously just so much fun to hop into and start swinging around the city. I mean, the web swinging definitely does feel smoother and more fluid than the previous game, which is definitely helped by the PS5 controller. It's hard to explain, but just the way that the controller can vibrate now is way more like, I don't know, like immersive than anything else I've really tried in a video game, which is why I highly recommend that you play this game on the PS5 regardless if you're looking into it. And the open world in general is still really fun to explore, and you can easily get lost for hours swinging around it, but it definitely is lacking in the amount of content and things to do that the previous game have, which you're going to see as a common theme throughout this review. When you aren't doing any story missions, then you're probably going to be just swinging around and looking for various bad guys to beat up for whatever reason in different places. There's still enemy hideouts to take down, like in the previous game, where you have to either just run in and beat up a bunch of waves of bad guys, or you gotta stealth your way through picking them apart one by one. And since the combat and the fighting is such a large part of what you're going to be spending most of your time doing with this game, it is a very big positive to note that the combat is way more fleshed out than the previous game. The Spider-Man PS4 game relied a lot on Peter's gadgets and his ability to combo with different abilities. But Miles actually has two other unique powers that separates him from Peter. Miles has electric powers that he can use in many different ways to punch people or ground pound them and jump them up in the air, do all kinds of sorts of different tricks. And the way that you build up your venom meter and combo your hits with your different abilities is just so much more fluid and really engaging in this game. Like, the combat is certainly an improvement from the previous. But what also makes Miles unique is that he can go invisible, which definitely adds this whole other element to the stealth and the way that you want to approach your encounters with people. The invisibility kind of breaks the game in a way where it doesn't matter so much when you get spotted if you're trying to be stealthy, because you can just go invisible and get somewhere safe. But if you want to get creative and blend different ways of fighting or approaching your situations with enemies, then the invisibility definitely adds something to a game that I don't know too many games where I could just go invisible and then just start fighting people and hop out of being invisible and electric slam them into a wall. Like, this is a very fun game for what it is. And the story is all right. I mean, I'll touch on it a little bit more right here, but this is definitely where you start to notice kind of the stretching and reaching for content in this game. As fun as this game is to play, the story doesn't really tie everything together into making this game feel like a complete experience. Because although this story works from start to finish, it's short to begin with and kind of goes really rapidly, very quickly paced. This is a story that introduces a lot of new characters, but doesn't really give them the proper time to flesh out or create any depth that makes us care about these characters. Basically, what sets up the story is Peter is going away on vacation with Mary Jane to, like, I don't know, I forget exactly where, somewhere in Europe or some shit like that. So now, like, Miles is the only Spider-Man watching over New York, and he's really new to this, so he has a lot to learn, and this is like a coming of age kind of story for him. And the downside to this is there was a lot of really big highs with some of the characters in the previous game, and now we pretty much just have to be introduced to a bunch of whole other new ones that never really got their moments to shine or stand out in this new series. In fairness, I think this game does a very good job overall of showing us Miles really owning Spider-Man for himself. It's definitely satisfying towards the end to see how Miles has grown, even though we didn't get a whole much out of this game. It's only about 15 hours, but Miles works as the lead to this game. It, again, like I was just alluding to, goes back to the supporting cast around him. Miles spends a lot of his time on his own in this game and figuring things out for himself, but this game introduces us to his childhood friend from the past who is somewhat also now entangled in this plot with the main villain, and that's where the main drama of the game is derived from. I'm not going to get too deep into any spoilers, but that's the sort of conflict involved with this story. In the end, it's a 15-hour story that's okay, not great, and if anything, it kind of falls short at doing anything to really pull you in with what's going on in the midst of the story. Because in contrast, the previous game had so much going for it. And I mean, towards the end of the previous game, you're talking the prison break and the way that New York is just falling apart. And there's a whole other like 12 hours leading up to the final boss then, and that's just the third act alone in the previous game. The bottom line with Spider-Man Miles Morales, though, is that it improves greatly on the combat and the feel of the gameplay from the first original Spider-Man game, but it fails to really create an atmosphere and give you reasons to keep sticking around for longer than, like I said, 15 hours. But overall, the story is a downgrade from the previous one and shorter. So that's really all that's holding this back from being a standout hit on the PS5. Now, that doesn't mean this game is not worth playing, though, because if you've played the first one and are looking for somewhat of improvement or to see where this series is going, this is definitely a nice little cherry on top from the last game. And like I've said, it's very good for the 15 hours or so that you'll get out of it. So if you can find it for cheap, it's a great way to spend your weekend. But if you just got a PS5 and you haven't played the first Spider-Man PS4 game yet, then I highly recommend you just played the remastered version of that game for the PS5 instead. You could just ignore this one for now and check out the PS4 remaster because it has all the updated graphics and 60 FPS frame rate from the Miles game and is just overall a way more complete and standout game with its, really engaging story. It's just personally one of the best games I've ever played. The first Spider-Man game is an easy 9 out of 10 must play that I think any PlayStation owner should play through at least once. But to wrap this up, is Spider-Man Miles Morales worth it to check out now? Maybe. If you played the first one and you could get this one cheap, then it's a very fun 15 hours with better graphics and improved combat. But you're definitely not missing much if you do want to pass on it. But if you still haven't played the first game, then again, you should just forget about Miles for now and go enjoy the remastered PS4 version and come back to this one later. Try to get this one cheap and just enjoy it for the weekend. It's not must play status. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys later.